Welcome everyone to Gordium, where we generate, evaluate, and execute on startup ideas. Probably have to update that tagline at some point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but for now, that's what we do. Today, we're really diving into restaurants have to manage so many types of orders. And so I just think this one's fascinating because it's a real lever that changed with the pandemic. It was accelerated with the pandemic because if if you think about different order types, you've got dine in, then you have like different delivery. Well, not
So
you have delivery order where you're
so
fulfilling
is
that.
this like yeah, like what you're saying, dine in, delivery, yada yada, carry out,
Yeah,
and balancing those, or is it saying, okay, your fries take a different amount of time and your burgers take a different amount of time and we want them?
yeah. No, this is more like the all right, so you got dine in, delivery,
Mhm.
drive through. This is basically we saw someone who was managing um they were managing drive through orders through the headset.
Mhm.
They were taking orders in person for dine in,
Yep.
and then they were fulfilling orders on a tablet from carry out. But
Yikes.
there's some restaurants that literally do all of this, that do Grubhub, DoorDash,
Mhm.
and then each of these people are coming in through different systems, right? So if you have a Grubhub order, that's coming in somewhere separate from a DoorDash order. So
Mhm.
just looks like a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
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 So I think of Chick-fil-A in
Mhm.
particular having, a lot, because you've got dine-in, you've got drive-through, and then you've got all these different carry-out systems. So yeah.
Yeah. And then as a consumer, there's a little bit of a game that you play where it's like, how do I get my food fastest? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's times where I show up to a restaurant and it's like there's a ton of people in the drive-through. I'm gonna
Exactly. Yeah.
pop in and just do takeout.
Yep.
And yeah, not sometimes that works and sometimes that really bites you. Um,
So I guess consumers have a bevy of options, and restaurants are forced into an arms race to um to appease them. Then so you end up with like 15 different ways to get food, and also with consumers trying to game the system to get food faster.
mhm.
So if there's a long drive-through, you go in to order takeout. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and the solution I think of, which is like a centralized order management system, doesn't really work. Because I mean, that how do you take, these are such different input. Like a drive-through order is so different than Grubhub.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe these already exist. I don't know, but like disparate data sources, like a voice order from drive-through versus a Grubhub order.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then they all have different, you know, outputs of success,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like a drive-through, someone's not going to be so like if it takes a long time in the drive-through, that's worse than a long time like
Mm,
in
on
store. And likewise,
Yeah.
if you have a Grubhub order that gets filled, 10 seconds after it's inputted, but the driver's not there yet, that's also a poor outcome.
That's a great point. So you have disparate data sources. You got the dogs are having a good time. Who's barking at Chunky? You've got voice. You've got API slash app. I don't know what else you could have. I mean, those are the really two different ones. You have different optimizations. Like Grubhub is optimized for timing arrival of driver, whereas dine in and drive through are just as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this just makes my head thinking about it.
Well, I think one interesting like partial solution is like at Little Caesars, the pickup boxes.
Ooh, yeah. Because then you don't have to. Then there's no difference between an in-store pickup, in-store order, and a delivery pickup.
Yeah. And then it sort of changes. So, well, it allows them to just change the timing from them to you, right? Because they can say, okay, this will be ready in this time. And then you can time your, if you want to sit outside Little Caesars, you can do that. Or if you want to try to time it so you get there right at the same time, you can do that. Or if you want to, it sort of puts the timing piece in your hands.
Yeah, it pushes the timing piece back onto the consumer. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wonder if there's a good article about the Little Caesars. Pickup portal. Yeah, I actually think their pickup portal is so nice. I remember when I was a college RA, I did Little Caesars for people for my residents as like a EA reward, and that's a terrible thing what I just said, a EA reward, but it was so easy. That's why I would always do Little Caesars, because it was such an easy pickup. Didn't have to worry about some random delivery person coming into our residence hall.
Yeah.
Well,
and then the portals make it even easier. I don't know when they started doing those, but
yeah. What was it called? There's a robot pizza place. It just shut down. And it was out here. I'm bummed I didn't get it.
Well, they talked about it
pizza.
in Measure What Matters.
Yeah, that's what it was. Measure what? That's a great. Thank you for. Oh man. Robot pizza delivery.
Yeah,
San
it was.
Francisco. I know it was in San Fran. It wasn't many other places. T-Bot. Oh, there's all these robot things in and California. Zoom Pizza, that's what it was. Yep. And I think this was super interesting.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were making the delivery robot or the delivery truck would do part of the cooking.
Exactly, which I think is the really smart thing. So combine cooking and delivery, like Zoom tried to.
I think the problem with Zoom is that they um, it's pizza. Like pizza does fine,
Yeah,
throw it
yeah,
in an insulated box and, you know, is it going to be the best thing you've ever eaten? No, but that's okay.
yeah. I think you're right. Like things that aren't reheated well or don't retain heat would do really nicely. I thought I'm bummed about this one because I actually really think this company was super cool. I guess wow, they said it was valued at 4 billion, and now they're filing, laying off 53%. They're doing food packaging, production, and delivery systems. I mean, that you're basically going from they're trying to get gold to making picks, which seems smart.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they've obviously figured something out. Maybe they're not a restaurant, they're a technology company. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh,
Um,
Another solution is to, you know, dramatically reduce what you offer, in a similar fashion to Little Caesars, but
mm,
instead of having pizzas ready, you just produce whatever at, your model's predicted, rate. So it's like, okay, I don't know who's going to walk in next, but I predict that someone will walk in the next 2 minutes. So, and because there's only one thing that they can order, I can start making it.
okay. So, like, decrease menu size to make it easier to prepare food.
Mhm. Well,
Well, it's
yeah,
interesting.
and,
Yeah.
and basically you can just, you know, it's like we only make hamburgers with ketchup. That's the only thing we make. And it's like, okay, at lunch you know, it doesn't matter. We can do 90% of the preparation and then just do that 10% once someone walks in.
I was thinking about this. Yeah, I mean the Colette's. When I worked, there's a food market at Hope College, and I worked there. And it was like a constant game. Really, concessions were the most interesting one, and concessions were interesting because like we made hot dogs, and it made sense to. I remember I made like I don't know, like 100 hot dogs in one day, and I brought like 50 of them home because nobody took them, and it was like, but it still made sense since hot dogs were so cheap to
Mm-hmm.
like have enough to meet demand. I
Yeah.
hope that's what happened. I don't know. I was just told to make a lot of hot dogs. I hope I didn't just waste a bunch of money, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think like separate from the cooking and delivery is robot delivery, which
Mm-hmm.
just like can make things easier. Like you can intelligently route these. And a lot of I'm trying to think of like they have the potential to like create shortcuts, like from oven to delivery with no immediate steps. Like I don't know. Yeah, I think those start to do some interesting stuff. I think I read Domino's is doing this. So
Well,
interesting to see these like yeah.
my family went to, like, I guess my sister and my dad went to go visit my brother at University of Wisconsin, and they said there were lots of delivery robots in Madison.
What?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were just part of the university and that's how they were doing, food during the pandemic, or if it was, yeah, what, not
Mm,
not sure what it was.
that's interesting. Well, it's just so fascinating to see a giant company like this that does pizza, like branching into robotics. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and that's smart. And then you have a pin access.
Hmm.
That's crazy, dude.
Drone
That's
delivery
okay. That's a
coming
thing.
back.
Drone delivery.
Yeah. Remember when that was all the rage a couple of years ago?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. There's been so many things that have been all the rage. That's just come on.
Yeah.
I think self-driving cars are here to stay, though. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a rage. That just makes so much sense. Well, I'm surprised we had this many solutions come out of it because I was worried I just wouldn't know. Um, Pizza, do we have restaurants? Um, hmm, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on connections, like different terms I can think about?
Not off the top of my head. Is there are there other things that are like many to one?
That's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah. Um,
Anything on like money, having various streams?
um, like money is siloed and can't go to the community, money for schools. Would
No,
it
I
be
don't.
bootstrapping with no inflow? I don't, yeah, I think this is a
No.
pretty new idea
Yeah.
for us. Um, okay. I think now it comes time to rate this. I think I have my ratings here. I think I've got mine.
Yeah.
All right, motivation.
0.
I'm in agreement. I have no desire to take on this industry.
I mean, if people want to give me food to try, I have high motivation in that. But
Did I tell you I want to start a TikTok with
yeah.
food?
Yep.
But I mean, we
Yep.
could do lots of things, but I would love to start in food. Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a problem for us actually with non-alcoholic drinks.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Um, I think that there's not a great non-alcoholic drink selection.
Perfect.
So
It's
I
just
think that
a
could be our
preview
first
for
TikTok.
our audience.
Yeah, a little sneak preview. We might be on TikTok if I can persuade. I don't know how we would do
Well,
TikTok.
more that is a problem we will do in the future.
Yeah, it is. Expertise.
Nope. Time to failure.
Yeah. Oh shoot, you're right. Thank good catch. I still think it's a 0,
Yeah.
but I think any of these takes a long time, like a centralized order management system.
Yeah.
Sounds
No,
like a
these are
nightmare.
not fun to solve.
Um, no. Okay. Impact.
0.
I think it's a 1. This is just a huge industry, and it's getting more and more complicated. I think we need to buck up and raise the minimum wage because I'm sorry, but managing this much, just thinking about the order management, it requires a high degree of skill. I'm sorry, throw a bunch of random people into this, they're gonna fail. Pay people for the skill they have. I don't know. This is hard. We value it as a service. Let's actually start to pay people. But anyhow, I think it's strange that I think what should probably be the reality is that like Wendy's or McDonald's costs the same amount as like a Jimmy John's. Well, not even a Jimmy John's. I don't know. Like you should pay for convenience. Like it's strange to me that
Oh,
McDonald's is the cheapest and most convenient. Like that just tells me that they're cheating the system in some way, and they probably shouldn't be able to have that
so what do you think the cheapest?
convergence.
What should the cheapest coincide with?
The lowest quality food, probably.
And is that not McDonald's?
It is McDonald's, yeah,
Right? So
but
cheapest means lowest margins, means the highest volume, which means the
yeah,
most convenient, right? Do you see how that train follows?
I do, but I think what's challenging about this is, I think, for example, like, well, then maybe I would just advocate like everything rises, like all food prices should rise on fast food. Because the convenience to create this convenience of this many different options, you start to, that is a skill to know how to manage that and manage it well, and it's a skill that's valued very highly. Like McDonald's is, I want to look up their market cap. I don't know if they're private though
No,
or not.
they're S&P
Are they
500.
public?
Yeah,
Oh, they are.
yeah.
Um, but like, so what's their market cap and revenue? I don't know where I would actually find that by trading view.
If you just Google McDonald's market cap, that will tell you.
Just also want to see their revenue. But like, okay, so here we go. This is probably fine. Okay, 185 billion. Oh, this is nice. Their revenue is 22 billion.
Mhm.
Like they are. This is like a valuable thing, and I think it's so strange to me that, and this is, managing this level of logistics is
Well,
complicated,
how much
and
do you
it's
think
not.
that level of logistics is a quirk of the pandemic?
Oh, I think it's here to stay, right? People are gonna.
I so I think um Grubhub and DoorDash, along with much of the shared economy, is in this VC funded, heyday. And as soon as the VCs don't start to realize that, oh, we're not adding any efficiency, we're just moving where it is, right? When those drivers start to say, oh, it's more than just the gas mileage, it's the wear and tear on my car, it's the oil change. I need more money, and that's
Yeah.
going to drive DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats and everything. Their costs are going to start going up, and that's going to, I think, make a lot of people less likely to use those services.
I don't know. I think people pay for convenience. I think convenience is something that people
So
are willing to
I,
pay
I
for.
think I think right
And
now convenience is in this sweet spot where it's artificially cheap.
I do agree it's artificially cheap.
Right. So to me, I don't think, dine in, drive through, dine in, drive through, you know, lots of companies have figured that out for a long time. And now they're just adding this, delivery option. And it's just
mhm.
figuring that I think we're just in an awkward, point of growth, and whether this growth is here to stay, or if it's going to, die out, I think that's to be seen.
Mm. I mean, I think just because it's been artificially inflated doesn't mean it is at risk of dying completely, right? Like, it's certainly true that VCs have pumped this full of money,
Hmm.
but it's also, I think, true that this is like, I think Uber's, like, I think Uber's probably here to
But
stay.
so
Um,
Uber does add a little bit of convenience, but there eventually the prices should normalize to the same cost as taxis, right?
yes, but the difference is you have identity tied to this. And I was very skeptical about Uber until I heard Scott Galloway talk about this. The difference between Airbnb and hotels and Uber and taxis is that you have identity tied to it. So your driver has ratings, you have ratings,
Yeah.
and there's a real way to like it forces you to behave better, both parties, than you might otherwise do. And so, I mean, and this doesn't actually really carry over to this whole delivery idea. I think the way to think about DoorDash and Grubhub is as outsourced delivery. If you think about it, if you're a restaurant and you don't have to manage a fleet of delivery vehicles, but you can offer this as a service,
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense. I think that's durable. I don't
I
know. I
think
think just because it's a hype train doesn't mean it's necessarily, yeah.
yes and no. I don't think, I think Grubhub and DoorDash a little bit different than other parts of the share economy, but it's in this subsidized haven where we don't know if, once prices start ticking up, I think people are going to start, questioning when there's no longer these promotions.
Yeah, I mean, take WeWork though. Like WeWork, right, was valued at a peak of $8 billion. They've made no money. They're probably, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah, they're
also
also
think,
private.
yeah, oh yeah. But like WeWork, I think is in general interesting and probably going to survive. Now, will it revolutionize everything like they claim
Yeah.
to? No, but it's like a trend. I think the challenge is that VCs are like pumping money into a trend, like crypto. Like crypto is a bubble. Like everything, it starts as a bubble. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean it's, you could have said that about the internet. Like the internet in early 2000s is there's so much money going into it and it's going to crash and inevitably like,
Hmm.
you know, everything's pumped up and it's like, yeah, but fundamentally they've discovered like something useful. They've just overvalued it,
Hmm.
know,
Yeah,
or
no.
undervalued it
So
for the
I
consumer. Yeah.
guess for me and the shared economy, it's my opinion is a lot based on a video by 2 Cents. Um, and they gave me a really interesting in this video. They talk about, is there any added, they're just changing
Mm,
where costs are, right? And it's like they're just moving. So for Uber and Lyft, they're moving, fleet management and those costs from the service, previously it was the taxi service, to the
mhm.
individual, right? And at the start, the individual doesn't realize that, but as they
Yeah.
gain information, they will.
Yeah. Which I think is true, but I still think the Uber is better than taxis. I've changed my mind on that. One, you have identity, so you can say I rate this driver and I have a rating. Two, you have an app that's super clean and efficient, and they have really excellent fleet management. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, they know what they're doing
Yep.
in terms of how to run uh, uh, a fleet. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think it is a better service. It's a killer product. I think things that are killer products generally surprise. Airbnb is a killer product. I mean, the types of I I was talking I was listening to Pivot with Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher, and they were talking about like Airbnb's brand is impeccable. It's its own search engine. They don't spend anything on Google advertising because people organically search for them that much. Um,
Hmm.
and Airbnb is a killer product. I've never used Grubhub or DoorDash, but um, I don't know. I mean, I think yeah, they haven't figured out how to make money, and
Yeah.
I think that's
And
probably
I
the VC's
guess
fault. You know?
that is where, I hold reservations, where it's like we cannot tell, how these will do in the real world, because they're in this, little, nurtured haven,
Yeah.
and the wolves aren't there yet.
No, the wolves aren't, and that's very true. And I think like Well, you talk about streaming, right? Streaming right now is funded. I think it's $150 billion industry. Like there's $150 billion that have been poured into it. And Scott Galloway talked about this. I feel like I'm just parroting his thoughts at this point, but um, he talked about like there's going to be a drawback. Like not everyone's going to survive out of this, and people are going to die. Does that mean streaming is going to go away? No, like I don't think so. I think streaming is a killer product that's much
Yeah.
better than cable.
Yes.
Just as like
But I
I
think
think Uber,
that's where they are adding, a large amount of utility. Their cost
I think
structure is different than, than either Blockbuster or other cable providers. It's a unique product. Whereas, is Uber different enough from taxi services? And you argue that, yep, it gives you rating and visibility and better fleet management,
well,
and
and
those
an
might
app.
be
Like
true.
my God, how nice is it to know where your driver is? Like I've used taxis before. I'm not I don't like just showing up at the airport and looking around to hail a taxi. Like if I can have
Hmm.
an app that tells me where my like I just think it's a better product. I think if they were the same price, I would probably choose Uber over a taxi.
Hmm.
So I mean I think they certainly exploited laws and have
But
done bad
so
things
then
and are not yeah.
this is this whole conversation a little bit of a divergence, but
Yeah.
you know you say if they're the same price, but with a taxi service, you've got a fleet of taxis, so you have economies of scale, for fleet maintenance and buying gas at a discount, right? Whereas as an individual, if you're an Uber driver, you don't have that. So in the long run, Uber should be more, well, assuming that the management is equally efficient,
Uh-huh.
Uber should be more expensive than a taxi service. And maybe the added convenience and the added, you know, yada 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 makes it worth it. But right now we're in a place where it's backwards, right? Where
Yeah, I
where
mean,
Uber,
yeah.
the should be more expensive service, is cheaper than the taxi.
Yes. Yes. I guess
And
something I'm
go ahead.
the do Uber I could see Uber getting those economies of scale. Think about a partnership with Shell, like, hey, you let us advertise in your cars and we'll give you a discount on gas. Like I think Uber is going to at some point hit economies of scale. Um,
But I think that's part of their, you know, they uh I just don't see that happening.
yeah, I mean, I
Right.
don't
And,
know. I
and
think,
it's
yeah,
it's more than, gas. It's, because they can just charge you, an extra gas price. But then it's,
yeah.
an oil change. Well, is Uber going to take responsibility if, you know, that 5,000-mile oil change, you drove 1,000 miles of that with Uber? They're going to
Hmm.
say, no, you drove 4,000 of that on your own. We're not covering that. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's where it starts to break down, I think.
yeah. And I mean, I think as a driver, I think Uber's in the end kind of a bad deal in comparison with something like a taxi service. Like,
Yep.
it's just not, they don't have great worker protections.
Yep.
Da, 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 da. I think in the end, though, they're not going away. Um,
Yeah. The
I think they're
I
here to
think
stay. And I think they'll figure out a way to make money. Yeah. I don't know. And I think similarly, like Grubhub and DoorDash, I don't see a small restaurant saying, yeah, we're gonna take on the cost to do delivery. No,
No,
like this is
I don't think
it's
they
a killer
will.
product. Yeah.
I also don't think that there will be as much demand for delivery. It's like you want to have, Jimmy's
Yeah.
sandwiches. Well, Jimmy's sandwiches doesn't deliver, so I have to go there.
Yeah, like post-pandemic food delivery rates. Let's see.
Well,
Oh,
and we're
there we go.
also we're also in a artificial time now, right? Because we're, you know, either not out of the pandemic or right. So you have
Yeah.
some people who are like, nope, there COVID is still a thing. And and
Yeah.
then there's also other people who are like, great, I haven't been able to go out to eat in, however long. So they're going out to eat extra. So
Yeah.
we're still just in a transient position.
I would agree. I think food delivery is gonna hang around. I think Grubhub and DoorDash are overvalued. Um, but I also think that delivery is just a killer product and exceptionally convenient for both consumers and restaurants. And there's a lot of cost things to figure out.
Mhm.
Um, but I think fundamentally they're better products. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, I don't know. I think the costs will figure themselves out. But I will watch this video though. Yeah, I think I have a hard time with an extreme like take like is it a sham? Like is it overvalued? Yes. Is it a
Well,
sham? No. Yeah.
I don't believe their answers that, yeah, it's a sham. I think,
Oh.
you know, it's more nuanced than that. I
Hmm.
think in general, 2 Cents does a very good job. But yeah, just looking at it as, where are the costs going and is there any actual cost reduction?
Yeah. Yeah, which I would agree. I don't think there's a cost reduction in the long
Mhm.
term once regulation catches up with this. Like
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I do think
And
it's a better
you
product
know,
though. Yeah.
could can they survive? Is their competitive advantage not cost? And the answer can be yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it isn't cost. I think cost has been part of it. But
Well, and that's
yeah,
fine. You can
yeah,
that's what VCs are there for, right? It's, well, that's how we get our foothold, because
hmm
Uber is a two-sided marketplace, so you need both drivers and riders. And if,
yeah,
you know bleeding money is how we get that two-sided market, that's fine. That's the investor's decision to use their money like that. But
yeah,
then to say, okay, look, they're doing well now, is also not fair,
yep.
because they're in this transient time.
hmm They are, and it'll be. Well, I think you have self-driving cars that would just wipe that industry out.
Mhm.
Like that's interesting. Do they get in on that business fast enough, or
Well,
do they? Yeah.
and in that video, they'll point out that Uber sold their self-driving division.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Well, I think Apple's coming out reportedly with a self-driving car in 2025. You
I'll
know,
see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
yeah. I don't know. I think again I'm parroting Scott Galloway. It's just so yeah, it's so interesting. If you think about in a modern car, the most important thing really is you're talking about battery and brain. Apple has
Well,
exceptional battery tech.
in
Um,
a electric vehicle.
Yeah. So they're launching an electric vehicle, and I mean, they have the best computer chips in the world right now by a far margin, and those are two pretty big competitive advantages. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. But autonomous cars are coming, no doubt. And yeah, I have a hard time seeing Uber and Lyft survive through that, unless they both acquire that. It'll be interesting to see how autonomous car adoption happens. Yeah.
Now let's see you tie that thought back to the initial problem.
Well, I think this makes everything much more interesting because basically delivery and carry out get squashed into one category,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then drive through essentially gets squashed down too.
Yeah. Everything is
Drive-through
either
just becomes
drive through or dine in.
or dine in. Yeah. Which is fascinating. That's kind of a fun simplification. That's a lot of levers. Autonomous cars are really going to change a ton of levers, but anyhow, I think, you know what I'm thinking, grocery stores actually have the same problems as restaurants, right? You think about, you could go in to shop, you can pick up, right? Or you can have your stuff delivered.
Yep.
It's the same complexity.
Mm-hmm.
These food delivery or food is increasingly becoming a logistics problem.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
just interesting. But anyhow, we've probably talked way too long about this, but thanks for joining us, folks. We don't have any solutions to restaurants managing many different types of orders other than apparently autonomous cars. So that's all we've got for today.